Do you want to start a company in Europe and legally pay between 0 and 12.5% tax?
The same laws apply, the same tax laws apply, the same process applies, the same KYC documents apply whether you are from Germany, Italy, Canada, or whether you are a Cypriot or a Greek person. Now, the process, as you would imagine, is seamless. Everything can be done electronically.
So remotely, the person doesn't need to be in Cyprus?
Not at all.
Why are so many business owners and entrepreneurs, investors choosing Cyprus right now to relocate their business and their tax base? Why is Cyprus so popular?
Let me explain to our audience in detail how you can create a Cyprus company.
And the cost. There are some very specific and time-sensitive tax schemes in Cyprus for specific industries.
Yes.
Like tech, IT, movie industry.
Yes.
Can you mention the most important of those?
I would say that for the creation of a Cyprus company, someone would expect less than a month or 3 to 4 working weeks.
Do you want to start a company in Europe and legally pay between 0 and 12.5% tax? In this episode, we show you exactly how to do it from Cyprus, one of the most tax-efficient countries in the EU, with powerful non-dom benefits, corporate incentives, and a lifestyle most founders only dream about. Whether you're already living in Cyprus as a local or an expat, or you're considering moving your business here, in this episode of FinHub Podcast, we break down everything you need to know on how to set up your company as a Cypriot or foreigner, what to expect each year in taxes, accounting, and audit, common mistakes that get people fined or in trouble legally, and how to choose the right accountant, tax consultant, legal and immigration expert to protect your business, your finances, and your future. I'm Pavlina Papalouka, branding strategist and business relocation consultant, presenting this episode in partnership with FinHub, Cyprus's #1 platform for business relocation, tax strategy, accounting, legal, and immigration services, all delivered by vetted, certified professionals.
And I'm Kyriakos Tramountanellis, Cyprus-based tax advisor, founder of Cyprus Audit Services, and co-founder of FinHub. Over the past 20 years, I've helped clients from the UK, Europe, the US, and the Middle East set up and optimize Cyprus companies legally, efficiently, and in full compliance with EU standards.
Let's start with the big picture. Why are so many business owners and entrepreneurs, investors choosing Cyprus right now to relocate their business and their tax base? Why is Cyprus so popular?
Cyprus is very popular because not only for taxes, there are 12.5% corporation tax, there is only 0% dividend tax for the expats, but also we have more than 65 double tax treaties with many countries around the world. We are members of the EU, which adds an extra layer of protection and prestige to the Cyprus company. Of course, we have an amazing lifestyle here in the Republic, and there are certain schemes that the government offers for certain companies, such as reduced taxation, which we're going to talk about later on, which are also attractive for investors.
And let's not forget the Mediterranean lifestyle, the perfect weather, 340 days of sunshine. You cannot find this in many places in the world, this kind of weather. I was shocked as a Cypriot when I went to Asia and I saw the level of humidity in the air and stickiness. And
you cannot breathe. You cannot breathe.
Yeah, we don't have that. We have the clean air, the clean beaches, and the access to Europe, not just the Mediterranean lifestyle, the weather, the food, and the access to Europe.
Of course, and over and above, we used to be a former UK colony, so everything is in English. We are following the common law, which is based on a case-by-case study. We have a very good banking system here in Cyprus, very robust, and the central bank is very thorough and very strict with our banks, so they are very strongly capitalized, which also portrays extra comfort to the investors, to the entrepreneurs, and the companies who relocate here in the Republic. The regulators are doing their best, all the regulators, whether that is the central bank, whether that is SISEC for the investment firms and funds, whether it's a registrar of companies. Everyone is now trying to make Cyprus even better, faster. That's why We have TaxisNet and other softwares that all the government sector as well as the entrepreneurs must use. So everything is online these days. And Cyprus is in the way of becoming a truly online, seamless business center, open for business for people from all over the world.
And for people who don't know from abroad, Cyprus is a service-based economy. We have a lot of people that have studied the past 30 years to be accountant, lawyers.
Yes.
So we are a very professional economy. Cypriots tend to we are overeducated. We all have university degrees from UK universities, American universities.
I think per capita we're the most educated country in Europe.
And I was even studying that we have the most educated women in Europe.
Possibly, of course.
Yes,
of
double
course.
masters, PhDs, not only men. So you will find a very educated economy, English speaking, and structured to service businesses.
This is something that Cyprus has been doing for the last 40 or 50 years. Whether or not a company or a headquarter will come and relocate to an island like Cyprus or to any country, one of the key considerations is, of course, the workforce. Will they be able to hire high caliber workforce? The answer is yes. Cyprus ticks the box there. Will the company be able to be served by professionals, whether these are audit firms, law firms, immigration experts, whether these are estate property developers, whether these are professionals in IT? Cyprus ticks the box as well. That's why so many thousands of companies have come to Cyprus and they're up and running for so many years. All of these professionals, of course, can be found using FinHub, finhub.com.cy. It's full of regulated professionals in legal, accounting, immigration, and other professional services, B2B services, that all relocating companies might require assistance from.
Okay, let's go to my next question then. Yes. What is the step-by-step process of setting up a company in Cyprus, whether a Cypriot is watching us and they want to start a company, or whether you're a foreigner and if there are any differences? And like the first thing in my mind, because that's what happened to me when I was starting my first company, was do you need an accountant or a lawyer, or it doesn't matter? So let's say you go on FinHub, do you look for an accountant or a lawyer to start the setup? And what is the process? What should somebody expect with regards to process and costs?
Question number one, whether a lawyer or an accountant, both can do the jobs. The application itself needs to be signed by a lawyer, but of course all audit and assurance firms have in-house lawyers that sign off the memorandum and articles. So the application can go in for the incorporation of your Cyprus company, whether via a law firm or a Cyprus firm. A very good question. What's the difference between the two, whether the applicant is a Cypriot, a Greek person, or an international? We have to say that the only difference, there is no difference. The only difference is that in 99% of the cases, the internationals who want the Cyprus company, they need all the incorporation documents and the memorandum of articles in English language. And this has an extra cost, which are disbursements to the Cyprus Register of Companies. So you can't say that if an international incorporates a company, it's going to cost him 300 or 400 euros more than a Cypriot, simply because all the paperwork needs to be translated formally in English language. And this is something that the Register of Companies with the lawyer or the accountant who are filing the application can do.
So that's the only difference.
Nothing else. The same laws apply, the same tax laws apply, the same process applies, the same KYC documents apply, whether you are from Germany, Italy, Canada, or whether you are a Cypriot or a Greek person. Now, the process, as you would imagine, is seamless. Everything can be done electronically.
So remotely, the person doesn't need to be in Cyprus?
Not at all.
And do you need to have an accountant, a lawyer in the city where you're setting up the company, or you choose where you have your lawyer or accountant, and then everything can be done remotely long term?
Look, everything can be done remotely long term. The city does not matter unless you have physical presence in a city, which is always more convenient to be next to your accountants and your lawyers for physical meetings. Other than that, because many international entrepreneurs, investors, companies set up the companies and they run them from abroad, they don't really care where the service provider is located.
Yeah, I have many friends like British and from other countries who live in seaside cities, but their accountants are in Nicosia, and they're very happy to drive once every few months to see their accountant in person, to have those accountant meetings.
We have to admit that the accountants and the lawyers in Nicosia and in Limassol, they're the most experienced accountants because these two cities traditionally have had the more influx of international investors, companies, and what have you. So we are very exposed to international needs, tricks, issues, and we know how to protect them. That's why traditionally this was the case, but slowly this now is changing because Larnaca is picking up, Paphos is slowly picking up. So there are reputable audit and assurance and law firms and immigration firms in those two cities as well. Mm-hmm. But let me explain to our audience in detail how you can create a Cyprus company.
And the cost.
Mm-hmm. The creation of the Cyprus company, it's a two-step approach, basically. Firstly, you need to decide on the name of the company. You need to decide on who the company director will be, the company secretary, and of course the shareholders, and where the registered office will be. All these services can be provided either by fiduciary firms, by legal firms, or by audit and assurance firm who collaborate with a fiduciary firm. So you don't need to worry about being the actual director, shareholder, or even company secretary of your company, especially if you're not relocating to Cyprus, because this is a service most of our service providers at the platform can offer for you. The reason why you need to hire these services is because, of course, for the management and control of the company. For your Cyprus company to be taxed in Cyprus, the majority of the directors need to be local. So unless you are planning on relocating to Cyprus or hiring local directors who will actually be working for you, then a fiduciary firm, an audit and assurance firm, or even a law firm can complete this role of acting as director for your company. And this is something common here in Cyprus. So you decide on the name of the company, you decide on the composition of the company, and of course, you decide on the fees. So you communicate with various service providers to see how much this Cyprus company will cost you. Usually the cost is less than 2,000 euros plus VAT. It could be 1,500, it could be 1,800, it could be 2,000. And this is because if you are in a rush and you want to get your certificates really fast, then there are extra charges, disbursements by the Cyprus Registrar of Companies. If you want everything to be translated, of course, in English, again, the cost goes up. If you are relaxed and you are not in a rush and you don't mind if the paperwork is in Greek, for our Cypriot audience and of course for our Greek audience, then the company is going to cost you cheaper because simply that you will not pay the government for these extra fees. So you decide who will be your service provider. This is a popular service at finhub.com.cy because we've had many incorporations there of Cyprus companies, of Cyprus insurance companies, and what have you. People simply state how much they're willing to pay. Our service providers accept their offer. And of course, our users, which is an entrepreneur, a businessman like yourself, will say about the composition of the company, who will be the directors, the company secretary, the registered address, and the shareholders. If they don't know, our service providers will guide them. And that's it. Once that is decided, then you wire the money to the service provider to start the process of the incorporation of the Cyprus company. Mm-hmm. This process takes 3 to 4 working weeks until the Cyprus Registrar of Companies will issue you with the documents of your company. In parallel, and if you want a Cyprus bank account, your service providers will start working on your bank application so that you don't waste time, and as soon as the company is created, they will file on your behalf the banking documents, which again could take 2 to 4 working weeks for the bank account to be issued. So, Pavlina, on and on, I would say that for the creation of a Cyprus company, someone would expect less than a month or 3 to 4 working weeks. Mm-hmm. It's not like in the UK or the Hong Kong or other jurisdictions where you can create or Dubai, where you can create a company online based on a very basic memorandum and article. Cyprus is not quite there yet, even though they are in the process of breaching this gap. So 3 to 4 working weeks. And if you need a local bank, it's not a requirement for substance purposes anymore. If you need a local bank, that will add you another 2 to 4 working weeks. So someone who needs a Cyprus company with a local bank, the whole process from the application date will take less than 2 months to be completed.
Okay, great. I have another question that I have always been asked by smaller clients. This is especially for locals, but also for international people coming to Cyprus. There is something called a commercial name, and you can start trading in Cyprus as a Cypriot. I don't know if it's the same for international clients. If you have small revenues, let's say up to 20,000 a year, do you really need a company, or can you trade under a commercial name? And what are the differences, if you can quickly mention that?
This is a very common issue that it seems there is confusion amongst
that's why I'm asking.
Okay, a trade name is just a name which is registered in the Cyprus Register of Companies. So this name needs an owner. So of course, if you're making a small turnover, we're not talking about profits of 30 or 50,000, we're talking about turnover. Then of course, there's no need for you to set up a Cyprus company, because you can use this trade name. So you can, maybe your name is John Smith and your trade name is Butterflies. You can register Butterflies in the Cyprus Register of Companies, and all your invoices will be named Butterflies, and they will look beautiful and amazing. But the tax information on the invoice will be, of course, Butterflies, and underneath John Smith with John Smith tax number. Okay? You will be taxed on your profits and not the 30 or 50,000 of turnover. As you very well know, Cyprus has the highest tax-free amount with regards to taxing people, whether they are sole traders, which is the case we're talking about, or employees. So this sole trader who will be trading under the trade name Butterflies will be taxed if the taxable amount exceeds 19,500 euros.
The net amount.
Then the taxable amount. It's called taxable.
Taxable amount.
Because there are some.
Because income minus expenses.
Minus allowable expenses, like, for instance, social securities and other expenses.
And you still need an accountant to do all that, because if you have VAT reports, like you have a trading business, that's how I started, and I always had an accountant. I got the trade name first, and then that trade name became a company when I was ready, because in the beginning it was a small operation. So this is just for people who are starting out.
In Cyprus, the VAT threshold is 15,500. So 99% of the businesses in Cyprus are VAT registered. And of course, you cannot complete and file your VAT returns, neither your tax returns, unless you are an experienced accountant, either by title or by work. There are many tricks, many changes, many legislations, many amendments to the VAT forms, to the tax forms, year on year. Everything is electronic now, and we are progressive in making the whole island working fully digitalized. So unless you are experienced, you will not be able to keep up even with a sole trader's filing requirements, which are, of course, the tax return and the VAT returns. And if the threshold exceeds a certain amount, the audited financial statements.
Perfect. And this comment about the commercial name is for people, either Cypriots just starting, but also people landing in Cyprus and they just starting. They can get their accountants, get the commercial name, and start the company maybe within 6 months.
Of course, the trade name needs an owner. Whether this owner is an individual themselves or their company, it doesn't matter. So you can start by owning this trade name. And when you're ready and you make more than 100,000 of turnover or more than 80,000 of turnover, then you can create your company, which can be called X Limited, and transfer the ownership of this Butterflies trade name to the company. So you can use the trade name for your company when you're ready. And it's worth mentioning again that there is no difference if you're a Cypriot or an international. The laws are the laws, and they are applied to everyone.
Great. So let's go into the maintenance costs of a company. When you have a trade name, the maintenance costs are less because you file the yearly tax reports, the VAT. But then when you go into a company, you have certain obligations to the government. So can you explain what these are? And of course, the bigger the company, the more
the bigger the
obligations.
company, the bigger the maintenance cost of the company. And this is simply because there is a team of people who will be working to satisfy the company needs. So traditionally, let's list the company requirements. First and foremost is, of course, the preparation of the VAT returns or the VS returns. VS are monthly, and in Cyprus, the VAT returns are every quarter. Then, of course, you have the monthly payroll payments to the local authorities for the social securities, for the ESC taxes and the pay as you earn as applicable. Then at the year end, your accountants need to prepare the 12-month financial statements for your company, which then needs to be passed to your auditor, who will audit the company and express the audit opinion. Once the auditor has completed their work, the company tax return, as well as the audited financial statements or the unaudited financial statements, they need to be submitted to the Cyprus Registrar of Companies. So there are many rudimentary compliance functions that your team of accountants, VAT experts, and auditors need to do for a Cyprus company to be compliant with the regulations here in Cyprus. On the other hand, if you are a sole trader, that means if you are a person who trades under their name and maybe it's a stage designer or maybe it's anyone who provides services that their turnover is very low, less than 50,000, they only need to prepare their VAT returns every quarter. And at the year end, of course, their personal tax return.
Again, this is if you don't have a company, because if you
yes,
have a company,
I'm talking about the trade,
you need to
yes.
do the annual reports of the
course,
company, and this
yes.
is an extra cost.
We're talking about sole
the audited
traders.
reports. Yes.
So a sole trader needs to be filing VAT returns or VS returns, and of course their personal tax return. Wise, if they are a company, if they own a company, then you need to do this together with the payroll costs, together with the audited financial statements, as well as the submission of the company audited financial statements and the company tax return, and of course the company's employer's return to the income tax office.
To clarify for the newbies,
yes,
if you don't know
yes.
what VS is when you're doing trading inside Europe.
Intra-community trading, whether it's services or goods. If it's goods, it's intrastat, it's called intrastat, but for services, it's called VIS. And of course, these functions are functions that you cannot know. There are changes year on year, and you need an expert to do this correctly.
Don't try to do it on your own.
Investigations do
trouble.
take place by the overseas authorities over intrastat and VS forms. Mm-hmm. So for statistical purposes and for decision-making purposes, the European Union wants to know how much goods and services are traded between countries. So they receive this information with your VAT return submissions. But they also work on these submissions. And if, for instance, your client is in Italy, maybe the Italian VAT authority will check a big company. They will take their VAT returns and their VS returns, and they will ask, okay, you've been buying these services from Cyprus. Let me check if the Cyprus company has been declaring them as sales, whereas you are declaring them as purchases. Mm-hmm. And that's how they check that the two companies, they do comply correctly with the VIS regulations, which are the VAT regulations following the EU directives on VAT.
Choosing your accountant or tax advisor in Cyprus is like entering a marriage. It's not just about price, it's about trust, clarity, and clear, consistent communication. At FinHub, we connect you with licensed, top-rated professionals, auditors, tax advisors, lawyers, and immigration experts tailored to your specific needs, your business model, and your future plans. You don't need to guess or gamble with your long-term business relationships. Just go to finhub.com.cy and submit a code. We'll match you with the right expert in under 48 hours. So what are the yearly costs, if you add it all up, for an average company in Cyprus, so that people starting a company count that in? I need to have this budget for my accountants.
A good rule of thumb is 2,000 to 3,500 plus VAT. This is a very good rule of thumb.
Everything for the annual reports and the VAT reports and everything?
I would say yes, plus substance services, that is the provision of a director, a company secretary, a registered office address. That could cost you from 1,700 up to 2,500 or 3,000. But if you don't need those services, then I would say the maintenance cost. We're talking about small companies that make 200,000.
1-2 employees.
If you are adding employees, and the cost goes
because
up.
You have payroll.
Yes, you have pay. That's why those companies will fall in the 3.5 region. So 2,000 to 3,500 is the norm for for small companies, solopreneurs, people with 1 or 2 staff that are making up to 300, 350,000 worth of turnover.
Okay.
Of course, something very important, lawyers, us accountants, auditors, and of course all experts, we charge on the time we consume on a client. So this rule of thumb assumes that your communication is fast. You don't bother the accountants and the auditors and the lawyers with too much communication, infrequent communication on scattered intervals. There has to be...
You are organized with your documents.
Yes, the paperwork is organized. The way you communicate is organized. You don't repeat the same questions. You learn what you're building.
If you want the accountant to do extra work and extra paperwork, and of course they will charge extra for everything because it's their time. If you're not organized internally, you can actually pay the accountant and their team to be more organized
a couple of emails per quarter, a couple of phone calls. That's okay. I mean, I believe your lawyers and your accountants. I mean, we see it from the platform. They will not charge you. But if you're sending an email every week, and obviously you need a lot of information in writing, because we assume a responsibility when we reply in writing, auditors, VAT experts, immigration experts, lawyers. Then, of course, our time will be charged. So we will charge you on top of what I said as the rule of thumb, correspondence time or advisory fees, let's say 300, 500. So the fees that I've mentioned assume a couple of calls or a couple of short emails every quarter. For the sole traders who do not have a company, the fees assume that they will be lower. So they could be in the region of 2,000, maybe 1,500 up to 2,500. And of course, we assume a turnover of less than 80,000 euros.
That's the bare minimum.
The bare minimum,
to have a company. But then what about different industries? Because now we're talking about the basic service provider, something easy for Cyprus. What if you have a company in a more complicated industry, let's say Forex, gaming? We have a lot of them in Cyprus. Do the costs change according to the industry? Are there some more, let's say, difficult industries that you can touch on?
So the bigger the company, the bigger the scale of the company, the bigger the complexity of the company, the bigger, of course, the risk to the auditor who will perform your annual audit, who will have to express their annual audit opinion on your financial affairs. So the fees for these industries could start from 4,000 plus VAT just for the audit, up to 15, 20, 30, or even 40,000 euros. So if we are auditing, for instance, a complicated Forex group or a standalone Forex company with 200 employees, lots of trading volumes and lots of expenses, and of course, lots of movements in the off-balance sheet items, it means that we will require a team of 5 people or 7 people for 2, 3, or 4 weeks to do our job right. And this has to be reflected in the audit fees. Over and above, as Pavlina mentioned, these industries, whether we're talking about banks, insurance companies, Forex companies, they require compliance functions. The internal audit is such a function. The capital adequacy reports is another function. The Pillar 3 reports or the Pillar 2 reports is another function. And of course, the ICARA, it's another function. These functions are very complicated functions, and the fees are always agreed with the clients, and they are much higher than what we just mentioned for the simple companies who require rudimentary accounting level of expertise. So the higher the level of expertise, the higher the fees for these companies. And of course, not one size of a service provider can fit all industries. And this is the whole point. We have created finhub.com.cy so that if you need an expert, you can choose on the platform what type of expert you need them, in which city, and you will only get a fee code and you will only agree with these specialized service providers in these specific sectors of your interest. So that you will get the expertise. Not all audit and assurance firms can act for funds, for complicated forex companies,
Yeah, there are
or even
specialized
investment
companies.
And it's a specialization that requires, I would say, more than 10 years.
Yes. So if you go through FinHub and you say, I'm in this sector, FinHub will match you with a company that actually deals with this kind of industry. Let's say you're in Forex.
Of course.
It's better to go
we
to a
have Big
specialized.
4, we have Big 10, and we have Big 50 audit and assurance firm or service providers. The Big 4 and the Big 10 firms, they do have the expertise, all of them for this industry.
Yes, because you have plenty of clients.
Plenty of clients and plenty of employees to specialize. But if you want something a bit, maybe the fees are similar, but the amount of focus that the other officers will pay to your functions is going to be much higher, then you can try our big top 50 audit and assurance or service providers, which also have the expertise. They also service similar clients, but they are not as big per partner to be in the ranks and carry the names of the big American audit and assurance firms.
So running a Cyprus company is not just set it and forget it. You need to be compliant. You can get in trouble with the authorities. So make sure you find the right accountants, the right auditors, the right team by your side. And you choose a team that is right for your industry and, of course, within the budget of what you can invest.
And close to your city if this is important for you. But also, Pavlina, the communication needs to be appropriate. This is something that we see in many cases. Besides the expertise, besides the geographical location, besides the size, besides the budget, the communication style and expectation is also important for this relationship with the lawyer, with the accountant, with the tax expert.
Something I don't know when I was a younger entrepreneur is that the relationship with your accountant is like a marriage. It's a long-term relationship and you're dependent on them. Because if they miss something important or if you cannot communicate clearly with them and you don't have the good relationship, something will go wrong at some stage, you will get fined, you will be delayed. So make sure you have somebody that you feel good working with, it's a great relationship, whether it's a Big 4 or whether it's a smaller firm.
Of course.
And it feels warmer and more boutique.
The fundamentals are the same. The fundamentals are the same. If there has to be mutual respect to both parties. So if the client does not respect the accountant's time, there will be friction. If the accountant does not listen to the client, there will be friction. If the accountant, for instance, is someone that answers in 2 words and the client needs a lot of detail to understand and repetition, there will be friction.
If you call them and it's only the secretary because it's a very big firm and you want to talk to your accountant and never have time to see you,
there will be friction. It's a relationship and it's ongoing, but because it's not like a husband and a wife, but it's like a partnership, each other's time and way of communication needs to be agreed at the front.
It's an important decision. I'm not saying it's like the marriage, but it's a very important long-term decision. It's a person that is part of your team.
Of course. And it's a very important decision because you can go bust if you have the wrong accountants and advisors. And we've seen this happening numerous times in Cyprus and, of course, abroad.
And they also hold your papers. And then if you want to change accountants, you need to go and pick up all the files.
That's not the problem.
They need to deliver it to
Pavlina,
you.
That's not the problem because we are all regulated. So, like the service providers in our platform, When we're talking about accountants and lawyers, it's very important for the audience of our podcast to know that we're talking about regulated audit and assurance firms and not people that act
Us,
lawyers, accountants from the houses without having employees, without having a team, without having the monitoring from the regulators.
There are many of these kind of people
course.
going around, and
We don't have them on the platform.
Okay.
This is very important. Only regulated audit and assurance firms by the ICPAC, Cyprus Institute of Chartered Certified Accountants, by the only regulated lawyers by the Cyprus Bar Association, and only regulated immigration experts, which are either regulated by these two or they belong to a company which is big and has more than 5 or 10 employees. So all the service providers in our platform are either regulated by CySEC, by ICPAC, or by the Cyprus Bar Association.
Perfect. So if I would summarize choosing an accountant in Cyprus to start and run your company, I would say first, find a person, a company that is regulated, that has years of experience. You can go on finhub.com.cy, place a quote. All the accountants, the lawyers, the tax consultants there are regulated, licensed, vetted. They are the top firms in Cyprus. It's no chance that you get in trouble with this kind of people. However, get the quotes, see what suits you, go have the meetings or the calls online, see if you have good chemistry, if you like the energy, because that's a long-term relationship.
Of course.
If they can service your industry, if you're in a very specific industry, if they have experience in your industry, because some industries are very specific. Even me, when I started doing online business in Cyprus, because I was one of the first ones, it was something new. How do we invoice for digital products?
The VAT in different countries.
VAT, the VS and all of that. So if an accountant doesn't have the experience, at least they can do, if you're a small business, they have to do the research and find out what's happening in your industry. If they have experience, they will be they will be able to help you very easily. So you have the meetings, you decide, and then you get started, and then you realize that you are in a long-term relationship, and these people can keep you compliant and out of trouble. So you need to have this good and clear communication with them, and make sure you don't make their life difficult, and you make it easy for them.
As well, of course.
You are organized. If you're not so organized, expect to pay a bit more if you need extra time from them, extra team members.
Of course, do the filing, organizing your paperwork before the processing. What's beautiful about FinHub is that in your example, the user of the platform, which is free for them, the business who wants and is in search for an accountant or an auditor, will only receive quotations from the experts he has chosen. So from the expertise. So in the meetings or in the phone calls that he will only make with those firms who have expertise, because you can select the type of expertise that you need prior to agreeing to see them or making the phone calls. Another very good point to tap on is the ideal accountant. We haven't talked about this.
Is there such a thing?
There
ideal
is.
accountant.
There is.
I'm going to put it on my vision board.
Yes, there
I'm
is.
working with my ideal accountant. I love these affirmations. I love working with them. They service me perfectly and on time.
The persona for the ideal service provider, whether this is a law firm, an audit and assurance firm, an immigration firm, or a CSP, a corporate service provider, comes down to 3 or 4 key characteristics. First and foremost is, of course, the size of the firm. So if you are a mid-size firm, you need to be serviced by a mid-size firm. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
For many reasons. It's not only the fees, it's also the attention, it's also the fact that you are too small for someone big.
I made this mistake when I started my first company.
It has to be a perfect match.
I went to a Big Four as a commercial name. I had just started,
Yes.
and of course the fees were very big for me, and they didn't have the right time. They were very nice, but it was too much. I could have gone to somebody smaller.
They should have onboarded you because you were not the right client for them in the first place.
Yeah, that was 20 years ago. So.
Yes, but I mean, size matters. It has to be the same.
Yes.
Then, Expertise matters. Then is the geographical location that we've mentioned. Then is the communication. So if the above three are ticked, but the actual person, the chemistry you've mentioned, Pavlina, if there is no chemistry and you feel it from day one, then feel free to ask for someone else, because maybe you're a very casual person and your auditor or your accountant, your lawyer is a very strict person. You won't be able to communicate on the same frequency. So you need a more relaxed...
I had that too.
Hey, you see?
The accountant who didn't get me at all.
Of course, maybe they were
Or
very...
my business.
Yes.
He didn't get my business, but he would do the accounting, but he was not excited at all about my business model. While, I mean, he didn't understand it, the online business model, because he was very traditional.
Of course. So if the person or the firm is very traditional, but they tick all the boxes, and your firm is in tech, in artificial intelligence, very modern, you will not stand it at any level that a very, very traditional team is servicing you, because their methods, their ways who will not be able to satisfy you, and there will be friction, as we mentioned earlier on.
Yes. I have lived through all of this. I can confirm.
Good.
Now I make better decisions,
Of course.
That's why we're here with Kyriakos.
And that's why FinHub was created, to meet these needs, either for lawyers, for immigration experts, for VAT experts, for tax consultants, and for corporate service providers, as well as auditors and accountants.
Great. So let's go to the next question.
Yes.
There are some very specific and time-sensitive tax schemes in Cyprus for specific industries.
Yes.
Like tech, IT, movie industry.
Yes.
Can you mention the most important of those? For those watching us, I would be very excited, for example, to see a lot more tech companies moving to Cyprus, taking advantage of the incentives. And I would be very excited to see Netflix coming to Cyprus and doing more series, because they have some rebates from the government, but they don't know. I mean, a lot of the production firms, they know, but it's still something fresh. So can you mention some of those schemes?
So let's start, since you start with the movies. There are incentives from time to time of up to 35% of rebates of the expenses cost. Of course, the production could take advantage of a Cyprus company here, and also take advantage of the low 12.5% corporation tax, as well as 0% dividend tax. So not only the production will cover the majority, up to 35% of its costs, but also any profits can be taxed here in Cyprus, and the profits will be tax-free. For shipping companies, they can opt to be taxed based on the tonnage, the amount of tons they're carrying, instead of the corporation tax at 12.5%. So that's why shipping is quite big here in Cyprus. This tonnage system is very advantageous for them. Over and above, the tech companies you've mentioned, they're taking advantage of the 2.5% IP box. And that means that if you created something unique, a software, an application, an intellectual property that others can use, then you can create a company who owns this intellectual property, and we use the money to create this intellectual property, and this company will be taxed only at 2.5%. Over and above, some other industries are the investment firms. Trading of securities is tax-free, dividends are tax-free, and the corporation tax is very low, 12.5%. Investment firms and funds, they also enjoy Cyprus EU membership. It gives prestige to the group or to the standalone Cyprus company itself. We have the solopreneurs who are either tech guys and can also take advantage of the 2.5% by using companies, or they can be servicing by the use of a company, other countries, other companies anywhere in the world, paying only 12.5% and zero dividend tax. We also have investment companies. Trading of securities is tax-free. So imagine if you have an investment company who holds portfolios of USA, European, or whichever stocks, and they are trading them. As far as Cyprus is concerned, there will be no tax. Dividends will also be tax-free, primarily because you will be a non-dom. We've talked about the non-dom in other episodes. Or because you are an overseas shareholder, Cyprus will not tax you. So these are other industries of very importance. What else? We have international trusts, very popular trusts, common law, settlor, beneficiary, as you would expect. We also have the royalty schemes, which are effectively royal income is taxed at 20% of the income and not at the 100% at the tax rate of the year. And what else? What else do we have? If you are a small fish in the pond, your tax allowable amount is 19,500. We have very young entrepreneurs who start over and they don't pay any taxes simply because the Cyprus has a very high tax-free amount. I think this is it, Pavlina. We covered shipping, tech, movies, investment firms, risky industry like Forex, funds, trading companies, of course, 12.5%, zero dividend tax.
Just to mention,
servicing companies the same.
These are not tax hacks. These are regulated
these are
by
tax laws and have been there forever. There is no intention of changing these tax laws.
And they are EU approved because we're
Of
a
course.
European country. So,
The difference between Cyprus and other jurisdictions like Dubai, UK, now in Germany I hear Belgium is becoming very aggressive, is that we do not change our tax framework. It's been the same. We don't like changes. The government knows the importance of Cyprus being an international financial center. 28 or 35% of Cyprus GDP comes from services. We do not want to change anything. So people who are listening to this podcast, do not expect that you're going to listen to this podcast in 2-3 years or 5 years time and there will be any major changes. Nothing will change. If anything, maybe the rates will go up or down. Let's not forget that in 2024, time flies, in 2024, the annual levy was abolished. So we are not aggressive. We are trying to reduce our taxes to the extent possible, as assuming that the EU allows us. Something else that I haven't mentioned earlier on we talked about the tax benefits earlier on, but there are also some other important parts like subsidies.
Yes.
We have lots of subsidies here in Cyprus.
Yes. These are different type of benefits. These are the subsidies. Can you mention some of the important subsidies that we have?
But they come hand in hand with someone who wants to relocate, because not only you will save all those thousands in taxes, but the running costs of your new setup, headquarters, or your newly established company, or even if you relocate a team from abroad, you will get money either in the form of reduced employee costs because there are fundings for hiring employees who are doing something new or training
and
employees.
Just to mention, this is valid for Cypriot entrepreneurs. All of the schemes are valid for locals.
No, these schemes are valid for Cyprus companies who are recruiting EU or non-EU people who are allowed to work in Cyprus. So if you are an Indian, or if you are an American, or if you are a Chinese person who relocated to Cyprus to work in Cyprus and they have their paperwork ready, you are eligible for these funding schemes. So it's not only Cypriots.
And if you relocate your business as well, you are eligible for this funding.
Of course, because your business is compliant with the local law.
I'm just clarifying that this is valid for Cypriots and internationals. So you have the funding for employees, funding for training. Government sponsors a lot of the training programs.
For hiring people who are changing jobs, or hiring people with some inabilities. And that's for the hiring funding. There are also funding schemes for young entrepreneurs up to 120,000. These programs run every 5 years, but they last for 2-3 years. So if you wait for a couple of years, there is always a program like that you can take
Technical
advantage.
upgrades, creating a website.
These
they
are
open
the small,
and close these programs.
This is called technological improvements and enhancements. This program is up to 50,000 usually. So these are the smaller programs. For the young entrepreneurs, it's up to 120,000. You also have industrial enhancements. So if you want to build a factory here, or if you already have a factory, or you're making signs, or if you are printing stuff, the government is absorbing EU funds, and every 5 years or 8 years, I mean, it depends from the EU really, you can take advantage and receive 200,000, maybe more, it depends on the program, to repair or restore or buy new equipment for your factory, whatever that might be. Again, you need experts to do that. These funding schemes, Pavlina, is very important because we're dealing with that as well. They're very specialized. It's very easy to lose them if you don't know what you're doing.
Yes, and if you don't submit the papers properly.
Properly, on time, be thorough, vigilant, detailed. You cannot do it. You cannot do a patch-up work and get funding.
Is the accountant responsible for doing the paperwork? Are they experienced in doing this kind of paperwork?
This is a function that does not fall under the accountants or the auditors or the lawyers' sphere of services.
Yeah, just keep it in mind because some accountants will have no clue and will not inform you.
But this is fine. Don't blame the lawyer, don't blame your corporate service provider or your accountant.
But you, Kyriakos, you as an accountant, you have a mailing list and you inform about all the schemes. And if your client wants...
We specialize in many things.
You're the only one I know who does that, like regularly informs his clients about the new schemes coming up. So your clients can get back to you and ask you, can you help us with that?
This is because we care about our clients and we don't want them to lose 200,000, 120,000 or even 50,000 to improve their businesses.
Because as an accountant, you can do it actually.
We do it. We do it. It's not something that we do on a regular basis because these programs open and close every now and then. We do it for all of our clients, of course. And sometimes we do it for non-clients, depending on the volume that we have and if we want to take the job. But in FinHub, we have service providers who only do that thing. So it's important.
That was my next question. I've seen, and I've seen people online saying that we do funding schemes, come to us.
These people can also join FinHub and be service providers, where they can sell their services to a wider audience.
If you're watching us, yes, we are looking for this kind of service providers to join FinHub to offer this kind of service. Of course, you will pay them something, but they will take care of the paperwork and everything will be done properly and you get the money.
At this point,
guaranteed.
Yes, because we're talking to a serious audience, it's not worth mentioning that you cannot do these things on your own. You can try, most likely you will fail. The fees for the service provider who will do these funding schemes, whether for recruitment of employees, industrial enhancements, technology enhancements, young entrepreneurs, or even the energy efficient programs, these fees are covered. So 60% in most cases of the service provider's fees are covered. So don't worry about the 5,000, don't worry about the 4,000 or the 3,000. What if someone tells you they're going to charge you only 1,000 for you to get 200,000 or 150,000 because it doesn't make any sense for someone to spend 3 weeks preparing everything, submitting, and then 2 years after everything is ready, trying to collect the money for you. These things don't make sense.
It's going to be truly worth it because let's say you're coming to Cyprus, even the energy saving scheme.
Which is very hot right now.
Let's say you're buying a house in Cyprus for permanent residency and they don't have the solar panels and all of that.
Or the aluminium glasses. They need
a lot of the developers, they don't do it. So then you enter that scheme and...
You need to pay someone to do everything thoroughly and get you the funding to replace.
But then you save so much long term in your house, and if you're gonna resell it, the house is upgraded, the apartment. So it's really, really worth it if you look into that.
Something important, Pavlina, again, there is a relationship because this process is not easy for someone to get you 120,000 or 200,000 or even 50,000 euros. So there has to be a nice relationship between the service provider, whether an auditor, a lawyer, a corporate service, or someone who only does funding schemes, and the client. The client needs to be responsive.
It's important because if you, me as a client, if I find a person that is unprofessional and they say they do this, but then they don't show up, they don't do things on time, I can't communicate properly with them, you're going to
lose the funding. It's as simple as that.
I'm going to have the stress
On
constantly.
the other side, if I'm the service provider and I'm asking you for invoices and you don't have them, or you are sending them 1 month later, or I need the agreements, or I need you to pay for certain things on time so that they are included in the application, or every quarter or every 6 months, or depending on the program, you need to do something so that I will take and use for your application. If you are not responsive, it's not going to happen, and we're going to have frictions because you're not going to get the money. I would make a lot of work. I might not have been paid enough, the 50% deposit or whatever. And again, you will be unsatisfied. You will not get your funding. I will be unsatisfied because I will waste my time, and we're going to have friction, and I'm not going to get paid. You're not going to get paid. And in the end, we both wasted our time. So the relationship is a very important aspect.
Last thing, the solution of a company.
Yes.
If somebody needs to dissolve their company, they decide to close that company, start another one. I don't know when you need to dissolve a company. Are you trapped in a Cyprus company? Is it difficult to dissolve, or is it easy? And what is the process?
It's a very easy process. There are 2 ways of closing and dissolving a Cyprus company. The strike-off requirement is you ask from the Cyprus Registrar of Companies to remove the company from the list of companies which are active. And once that is done, your company is no longer active. You can only reinstate it with a court order. The dissolution, however, of a Cyprus company, which is the permanent death of the company, and which is, of course, the preferred approach, comes with the liquidation of the company, which is a process that takes approximately a year to be complied. You need to hire lawyers who will do the necessary steps, go to courts, publish this information in the National Gazette for a certain amount of time so that any creditors can cancel this liquidation and what have you prior to the liquidation of the company. As you would imagine, the first process, which is the strike-off process, is a very fast and cheap process, whilst the liquidation of the company, the permanent death of the company, is a longer process. So the fees could vary from, let's say, for the strike-off, less than 1,800 euros plus VAT, whilst for the liquidation of the company, I would say less than 3,500 or 4,000 plus VAT. Of course, it depends how big the company is. If it has issues, the fees could vary depending on the complexity and the issues your lawyers will face. In both cases, Pavlina, it's very important to say that the accounting records of these companies need to be up to date. That means the VAT needs to be up to date. The company's tax returns, whether the employee's returns or the IR4, the company tax return needs to be submitted to the Cyprus Income Tax Office. The audited financial statements need to be submitted to the Cyprus Registrar of Companies, and the tax clearance needs to be issued from the VAT and the Income Tax Office prior to the strike-off or the liquidation. So you cannot have a messy company and assume that it's going to get closed.
You need to tie all the loose ends, pay all the fees, all the VAT and everything, and then...
So if you were someone who was not keeping an eye on the company, you need to bring the company up to date. So those fees are just for the actual act of strike-off or the liquidation. You need to pay your accountants to do the VAT returns, the submissions, the tax returns, the audited financial statements.
Otherwise, nobody will close your company. It will remain open.
Yes. Another common mistake we have come across is with internationals, actually. Cypriots don't do this. Internationals do this. They have property companies which are not up to date. We even had a case that there was an entrepreneur, an investor from abroad, who has bought 2 houses and was building a block of flats under one company.
And he was
under two companies, but different assets. And he never prepared, submitted.
The annual returns, nothing.
So the government sent him after the 3 months and the repetition of the 3 months, told him that we will proceed with the liquidation of your company because it's not compliant.
And then they take you to court to pay all the fees and everything. They will sell
the assets, pay all the fees, and I think the funds remain to the government.
Wow.
So he had to hire us to go and do 10, 12 years worth of audited financial statements for 2 companies, do the submissions and everything so that he will not lose his assets under these 2 companies.
That's great. Thank you so much for the information today. This is the episode I wish I had seen before I ever started my first company in Cyprus. I wish I had this information. I did make mistakes. I did pay for the mistakes. So if you don't want to pay for mistakes, hire the right experts. Thank you, Kyriakos. If you're ready to legally pay 0 to 12.5% tax in Europe, protect your assets and enjoy the beautiful Mediterranean lifestyle, then Cyprus should absolutely be on your radar. But don't do it alone. One mistake with setup or filings can cost you thousands. At FinHub, we connect you with top-tier Cyprus-based advisors, accountants, lawyers, and tax experts, so you do it right from day one. Just go to finhub.com.cy and fill out a short request form. We'll match you with the right certified expert in under 48 hours. If you enjoyed this episode, don't stop here. Check out some of our previous episodes for deep dives and insights on Cyprus relocation, tax strategy, accounting, legal advice, and lifestyle benefits. We're here to help you protect your business, your wealth, and your future. Subscribe, like, and turn on the notifications to stay updated with everything you need to know about moving to and doing business in Cyprus smoothly and easily. See you in the next episode.